So welcome, folks. Nice to be with you. Nice to see all the well wishes and chats, and yeah. Okay, we'll do what we do and settle in. So the chitta, heart, mind, that which gets liberated in this path, not exactly sure what chitta is. But Ajahn Sajita says characterized chitta, heart, mind, as primarily a receptivity system. So we make ourselves porous rather than coming to conclusions about life, about ourselves. We sit poised in receptivity. Compassion is said to be the quivering of the heart, but in a sense, our whole being is always quivering. Always being touched by phenomena, the relentlessness, samsara. We sit here deeply embodied, our skin sensitive to everything. Our heart sensitive to everything. Our affect, emotion, feeling signals various urgencies, the urge to fiddle with samsara. Sometimes there's wisdom in it. But for right now, we treat everything as a kind of false alarm. Staying poised in receptivity, which is another way of saying we're not landing in conclusions about ourselves, about life. We're poised in receptivity. It's riding the intensity of embodiment, the intensity of this human realm, the intensity of time, of pleasure and pain. amidst the intensity of the human condition, our porousness, almost can feel like we have to brace against the world. And the way one braces so as to minimize the pain in a certain part of our body. We're injured, maybe we brace, trying to quarantine the pain. And in a deeper way, we brace so as to protect a sense of self. The Matthew within Matthew needs protection from all this receptivity. But it's just sensitivity all the way down. Opening. The skin quivers, the heart quivers. No more fake urgencies. No more protection. Safety in the openness. In our receptivity, we're not trying to go anywhere to get anywhere, become anything. The goodness is already here. We can feel that. And there's just a kind of faith, a logic of the Dharma. Okay. So, awe, surrender, humor, playfulness, grieving, and now 5 days in the week, final factor in this made up list. And I needed in my mind a factor that acknowledges the the iterative the iterative nature of the path, that our understanding of what we're doing, of what the Dharma is continually updated, and we get comfortable. There are phases, these kind of alternating phases of getting comfortable within a certain view of the Dharma, and then the rug being pulled out, and too much comfort for too long is stagnation. And so there's the iterative nature of Dharma. I wanted to emphasize the way that a Dharma life is a kind of continuous feedback loop, giving, receiving, growing, giving, receiving. And I felt like I needed a factor that acknowledges the permanent possibility of being wrong, a possibility that will never be dispelled, really. And so today, beginning again, on this path, we're going to have to begin again. It's not a kind of linear path of practice, progress, practice, progress, practice, progress. And if we can't begin again on the path, practice can become humiliating. Maybe we stop altogether, because there are plateaus and descents and times when we're super inspired and the Dharma feels so fresh and alive, and times when we have zero motivation. And so we learn to begin again at the micro level. We begin again when we're attending to the breathing or whatever, and notice that we're encased in fantasy. We begin again. And at the macro level, the level of our life, sometimes our past maybe is just too messy to sort it all out. The day was too messy to sort it all out. We begin again. Sometimes our family history is too messy to sort all out. We begin again, redeeming the pain of the prior generation. And in our lives, how easy it is to forget the Dhamma, to become, in one way or another, alienated from our wisdom and from our love. So it's meaningful to me that sati, mindful translated renders mindfulness, has connotations of memory, of memory. We begin again when we remember the Dharma. In my suffering, there's a kind of sense of it being a kind of forgetting in the dream, the it said life is kind of dreamlike, yeah, but suffering definitely feels dreamlike. Something about the Dharma is forgotten, utterly forgotten in our sorrow and despair, and we remember, we begin again. Of course, we make messes, the kind of the debris of greed, hate, delusion. And sometimes our messes, we're embarrassed by the messes we make. And it can be humbling, but we just begin again. And guilt, in a way, is just a kind of overestimate of the wisdom we had at the time. Of course we made a mess. Of course. How could it have been otherwise? Of course they made a mess. And we learn the kind of lesson of the defilements. We learn the lessons as deeply as we can. And then we completely forgive ourselves and begin again. We begin again within relationships, within the various relationships of our life. That sometimes there's a dense tangle or discord or conflict or seemingly irreconcilable kind of pain of one kind or another. And there can be this tendency to want to tie up all the loose ends, to iron everything out. And sometimes that can be done, sometimes that's appropriate, sometimes it's utterly vital to talk things through, to come to some kind of détente, some kind of resolution. But sometimes the loose ends won't be tied up and we just let them lie and we begin again. Norman Fisher said, it's hard being a human being. There's a lot to it. There really is. So I want to say in conclusion, let's all agree to accept the reality that we're not going to be able to do a very good job at this. There's too much to do. Isn't it a relief to know it's not going to work out? And you can just forget about that to start with. So you're not going to get it right. You're not going to get it perfect. Well, don't worry. Just remember there's no hope. But the important thing is, despite this, and recognizing and embracing this reality, don't worry about finishing the job or doing it perfectly, but start, you see, start and continue. This is the thing. You can really trust that if you will start and if you will continue with commitment, that will be enough. That will be enough. Our intentions for practice they change over time. We have to begin again. Sometimes we achieve or we outgrow what brought us to the path. We came here to manage anxiety, or came here to, and for some circumscribed kind of reason. And now, okay, I feel better. What's practice now? What's practice now? We have to find new sources of motivation. We begin again with new intentions for practice. And sometimes we leave behind things as we begin our practice. We leave behind pieces of ourself, pieces of our history, things that were meaningful, the ways we used to play or read or pray. We leave these things behind. But practice has this weird way of looping back to old currents in our life, things that were meaningful, that we've put down. And then we pick them up, but in a new way. We begin again with old loves. We begin again at the macro level. We begin again in each moment. So offer this for your consideration, and feel honored to be with you, and appreciative of the sense of freedom I have to speak my heart. So thank you all. Thank you, and appreciate the scheduling mistake here in our session. Thanks for your flexibility with that, and thanks for all your support of IMC and your practice. I'm grateful. Okay, folks. So we'll wrap up and see you somewhere on the YouTube Zoom circuit and or elsewhere. And I wish you all a good week. Okay.